Hello and welcome to my podcast. Whether you're walking to work, having a cup of coffee, or just seeking positive vibes, join me as I share timeless wisdom and practical tools to make your life a little bit better.
Hello, friends, how are you doing? I hope you're having a good week. And thank you for being here once again. Thank you for coming back and listening and taking your time out to listen to me just give you wisdom or some tips and what I've learned through life and what I'm still learning. So today I just want us to talk about choosing you. And what this is about is I saw a quote that kept on lingering in my head and I had to share it. Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. And I know that a lot of us are going through a lot of pain, from breakups to lack of money or lack of jobs, lack of meeting your goals, you know. And I just want to tell you that this is normal. I myself am also going through pain in my life from, you know, life not turning out as how I wanted it to be. But here's the thing. What I need you to understand is that pain will always be there, because as I told you, life is about both negative and positive experiences. But what you can choose to see as optional is the suffering that you're going through. Suffering is optional. If you keep on being the victim in your circumstances or in the experiences that you're going through, then you will always choose to suffer. So I thought that we talk about this. So when you devote time to meeting your own needs, you make a wise decision that benefits your personal and also your professional life. And this is the base of choosing not to suffer, you devoting time to meeting your own needs. The reason why a lot of us are going through suffering is because we are not meeting our own needs. And as I've said this before, as women especially, we tend to put everything and everyone else above ourselves. So our needs take a back seat as we care for our families. This is our spouse, our children, our parents, as we also care for our businesses or even our boyfriends or even our friends. And we've all had this before. You cannot pour from an empty cup. So when you're emotionally drained and you're overwhelmed or stressed, you have a hard time giving energy and attention to people and situations that do need your input. And that's why I just wanted to ask you today, why don't you just choose to take the path that serves you, a path that is not full of so much suffering? Because life is short and we only get to live once. So why don't we choose to quit playing victims in our negative circumstances? If it's the breakups, if it's the losses that we have, if it's life not going as you want, if it's life being so stressful, why don't we choose to say, it's okay, I feel sad, I feel hurt, and I know that a lot of us, after we feel this pain, we have to go through the grief. Because if it's a breakup, you've lost something, so you have to mourn it. If it is like today you go out and you just don't get the goals met, you see it as a loss, so you have to grieve. If it's life not going as you wanted it to be, like in my situation, then you grieve. But what I've come to learn, and after even talking to people, is that how you pick yourself up is the most important thing. And that is you choosing not to suffer. You can choose to see your situation as a blessing, because it has come maybe to teach you something, or it has come to push you to grow. Okay, so that's how I always see my situations. And I want to encourage anyone out there, why don't you choose to practice asking yourself, who do I want to see myself as? Why don't you choose to go after your dream? Why don't you choose to love more? Why don't you just ask yourself, what do I need to be that person who is, for example, if you've been in a bad relationship and it has been a tough breakup and you just feeling the pain will be there, and as I've told you, you have to grieve. But why don't you ask yourself, instead of putting myself through all these negative emotions and experiences that I passed through with my ex, why don't I choose to ask myself, who do I need to be, or what do I need? So why don't I just choose to see for myself, for example, loving to myself? Why don't I just love myself as I used to love my ex? Why don't you just begin there? And who do I need to be? So maybe you need to be a person who sits down with herself and asks herself, what do I need? What needs need to be met? Maybe I need to start practicing to be enough for myself. And how does that work? Maybe it's telling myself I'm enough because, one, God has created me. There is no other mercy like me outside here. Because I am unique, I have my different gifts and I have a different personality. You see? Those things just make you special. And the moment that we choose to meet our own needs, then we choose ourselves. So why don't we just choose to indulge ourselves? And how does this work, or how does this look like? Indulge yourself, like at home, pamper you. Maybe you've come from a very stressful day, your things haven't worked out. Why don't you just sit down, maybe put on some music you love and listen to it? Why don't you just, for example, even at home, why don't you just burn scented candles? You know, pamper you. Why don't you choose to just read a good book? Just indulge in a good book in a quiet, a comfortable spot, other than just immersing yourself in social media where you compare yourself to others who you don't even know the journey that they are walking. You know? Why don't you choose to, if it's on a weekend, get in touch with your creative side? If it's to bake, if it's to paint, if it's to color, if it's to knit, if it's to draw, if it's just riding a bicycle, if it's just, playing soccer with your kids or even your friends, why just don't you choose to get in touch with your creative side? Because then you make you happy. You make yourself feel as if you are enough. You make yourself feel proud of yourself. And that is just meeting your own needs. When you play soccer, for example, with your friends and you get your wins, you still find your strength. So if it's outside your home, how do you then indulge yourself? Why don't you just go for a walk? Why don't you travel if you can afford it? By yourself, spend time with yourself to a new place, because this offers just a fresh perspective, even if it's just budgeting and saying I want to go to Naivasha and come back. if you're in Nairobi, why don't you just go there and just seek a fresh perspective on life? If you can afford it, especially for you women, why don't you just do a spa day? Or just put on a face mask, tone your face, and do a moisturizer. Why don't you just shower with the best smelling soap? Or, if you have the shower gels, why don't you use them? If it is in your relationship, why don't you ask yourself, what are my needs? What are my needs? What need to be met? And meet them first before you're offering that hand to meet your spouse or your partner or your boyfriend's needs. Why don't you choose to be kind to you first and then be kind to your spouse or your partner or your boyfriend? Why don't you just choose to do what you love? Choose to do what you love. Go on dates. Go on dates alone. It can be a simple date like just getting a coffee even within the neighborhood without your partner being there. Or you can choose to go on dates with your partner. Like a date night you have or a date day. What works for your relationship. Or you can choose to do this with your friends. Why don't you even just treat you? And most importantly in your relationships, take care of you as you take care of your spouse. Whether it's mentally, physically, emotionally, take care of you first. Because as I've told you, you cannot give someone or try and help from an empty cup. You cannot. If it's at work, if you're at work and you're unmotivated, or you just, it's Monday and you're like, where am I going? I just seek another job, work towards another job, or just seek a promotion. Or embrace a passion. Like, just put the effort. Embrace your passion. We all have passion. Some of us love baking, some of us love cooking, some of us love playing football, some of us love sharing tips like me here on a podcast. Share it on your podcast, share it on a YouTube. Just trust yourself and begin that journey. Just know you're not doing it for anyone. You're doing it for you first, because you indulge yourself, and in that process you know you're living your dream. That's what living your dream is. So why don't you just, or start a side hustle, or just a simple Insta page and share your passion. Just share it. If it's cooking, share the photos that you love. Just share. Start an Insta page and share. Then you're living your dream. How do you indulge yourself socially? Connect with your family and your friends and just form those social bonds. Life is not about the quantity, maybe going clubbing and what. It's about the quality. Who do you have around you? If it's your family that brings quality into your life, then indulge them over meals. Indulge your friends who offer you quality friendships. And lastly, just choose to meet your needs, your spiritual needs. Pray, meditate, or just spend time becoming more mindful. They're simple needs that need to be met. Pampering yourself, going for a walk, reading a good book. Just meet your own needs first before you can be able to meet anyone else's needs, people. Choose yourself first to avoid the suffering. Pain will always be there. It will. And that's why it's also said, no pain, no gain. Pain will always be there, my people. Disappointments will be there. But what I've learned is that suffering is optional. So I would love to offer that let's choose to meet our own needs for ourselves so that we can start healing for some of us. Because for some of us, we're in that stage where we are always blaming other people for our pain. And I was there. And at times I do blame other people for my pain. Because you know how our brain is wired? Our brain is wired to always survive. We still have that brain of the old times. But what I would love to tell you is that let's heal, and eventually let's be a source of inspiration, or even be that person who will hold someone's hand when they need you the most. Okay? So, till next week's episode, I'm sending you my light and love, and God bless. Cheers, my people.